Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm, of course, your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Zanvikili, here with the Duchess of Deception, the winner of Traitors Canada Season 2, the one and only Neta. Neta, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been 10 years in the making, so.
It's so delightful, not only to watch it play out, but then also to get to talk to you here today. Neta, I don't even know where to begin. This journey was absolutely incredible to watch from start to finish. So I feel like we should probably go immediately into the final roundtable first to discuss that. Because that really looked like it was do or die. And it looked like had the result not been exactly what it was, I don't know if we're standing here celebrating right now.
Yeah. I think as long as Kevin left, I think it would have all worked out.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing for me, was that it really looked like it was either going to be a Kevin win or a Neta win. And so it looked like you were building towards a Laurie boot to push for the Laurie exit there. What ended up pivoting it over to Kevin with everybody?
It was, I was in a car with Cedric and Kevin, and they were gunning for Lauren. I'm like, okay, we're not going to be able to switch them at all to go for Lauren. So now we got to switch to getting Kevin out first. I just wanted to dwindle down Kevin's numbers at that point. And I really thought Laurie was on board. So I was like, okay, girls, you need to take over with Laurie because she doesn't trust me right now because I've been kind of saying her name at this point. So you guys just handle this and see if we can switch it to Kevin.
And listen, they switched right over to Kevin. You get him out, and then you get Cedric out in a 1-2 punch. You're at the final for Fire of Truth here with these lovely ladies. And Neta, were you anticipating the other two to vote to end the game right there? Or how did you think that was going to... So you knew they were going to vote to end it.
Yeah. It was basically, if I went red, we were going to go for Laurie. That's what we were like saying. And then I think Tranna just did a little switcheroo last minute because she saw a look that Lauren maybe gave her. And so then I was like, okay, you want Lauren gone too? We can do both.
Well, I saw your face in that because we see Tranna's vote come up, Lauren, and they panned your face and you have this look in your eye and the panic set in for me. Obviously, I don't know what's going to happen. I was like, if Neta just got 2-1-1 out of here because Tranna switches up or something, I'm going to be distraught. But I thought Laurie going out for you was perfect because Laurie would have been the one to write your name down had you been at 3.
Yeah, definitely. I feel, well, Laurie was like happy to end the game at that point, but I was just like, I need to keep going red because it looks suspicious when you go green.
Yeah, 100%. I think you nailed it. I think having had this final 2 with Tranna, it would have been potentially strange if you decided to end it suddenly. And it's like, all it takes is one switch up from Tranna there and it's over.
Yeah, no, for like half of a second when Tranna was saying her speech of like, oh, this whole time someone's been keeping me safe. I'm like, oh my God, wait, did she just figure it out?
Yeah.
Lauren. I'm like, oh, thank God.
How hard is it to keep a straight face during all of that, to not give anything away?
I had been keeping a straight face the whole time. The Botox really helps.
Okay. Pro note taken for my notes for the future. The start of my 500 pages. This is the first line. Neta, you mentioned this at the beginning of the season when you get into this conclave and you see Michael John and you see Kira and you're like, the one person I didn't want to see was Kira. What was it about Kira's presence that really made you feel that way from the jump?
She kind of reminded me of John a little bit, her personality, where they're both very like outgoing and lovable and they get along with everyone. And this is before I had even known she was a traitor, but she just was bouncing from person to person to person, like being their best friend. And I'm like, wait, this is such John vibes for me. I don't know. I really don't want to see her because those people who naturally have that personality, the game is easier for them because they don't have to like put on a show. That's just who they are. So people just trust them because they're like got this Labrador retriever like vibes to them. So I'm like, I just hope it's not her. And then when she did come in, I was already so hyper aware that like, because Cindy got me out, John got me out, my 2 closest allies both times. So I did not want that to happen again. So I was like, okay, just keep your eyes open. The first thing you see that is a little suspicious, you need to let them go. Honestly, though, I think it's so smart if you're a traitor to stick with the traitors until the end. But I had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, was it the paranoia of I just can't trust that they're not going to cut me if we go all the way to the end together?
I mean, I was always thinking that, but I was like, I need to have some proof or something, because I can't just be paranoid and then get them out. Like, it
Right.
really was Kira turning on Michael John, and then I obviously didn't know Nick was her brother, but there was just something off the whole time with Kira. I don't know if that's like my intuition or maybe I'm just bullshitting. I don't know.
Well, we do see the conclave that started it all with Kira hard going at Michael John and then having 2 failed attempts to boot him out of the manor. So ultimately, when he gets booted and it's just the two of you, we see you start to pile on the evidence to get rid of Kira. What was it about? Because obviously Kira had just done this to Michael John, and then you did it to Kira, getting her out. What was it about how you did it? Where obviously Laurie's got your name a little bit, Kevin's kind of thinking about you a little bit, but what was it about what you did that did not get you out and get the suspicion on you after that?
I had really good relationships with people in that house. They did all underestimate me, obviously, but I think my relationships really kept me safe. It's also the way I went about the Kira thing. You can see it in the car where I'm like, you guys, I'm so nervous. I don't know if I should speak at the round table. And they're like, no, Neta, we'll have your back. Like,
Yeah.
to speak. So I was still playing that up. I didn't go in there and be like, 100%, we're gunning for Kira. I started off the day with even going up to Tranna and be like, hey, like, I'm kind of thinking, Kira, what do you think? And then she's like, no, maybe till later. So I just wasn't like really pushing. It just all ended up really working out.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast from that night extensively. I felt like your demeanor at the table, the level-headed, but kind of giving off that insecure play of like, I'm just terrified to even face you. I feel like it got backed up well by Kira then hard pivoting over to you as well at the table. Is that how it felt during as well?
Yeah, I had really warned my car. I'm like, if I do this, she's going to come after me really, really hard. So when she did, I'm like, okay, I'm just a little innocent girl. Like, she's attacking me. I'm so scared.
It worked out perfectly. And was there ever a question that you were going to murder Nick that night?
No. For half of a second, I was like, maybe Tranna will get some heat off me, but it just wasn't worth it. She was like number one in that game. And like, Nick was so hard defending Kira, and Kira had been really defending him in the conclaves. I'm like, it just doesn't, I didn't think they were brother and sister, but I'm like, they're so
Right.
close. Like, he needs to go.
How was it? How was the reveal of finding out they were siblings for you?
Damn, I was like, I killed off a whole bloodline in one night.
It really was like, what, 6 hours apart? Like, ridiculous.
I'm like, did they take the same car home?
Oh, that'd been awkward in the morning. It's like, oh, well, hello. Well, it was funny though to see Nick be like, okay, now I know why I was safe this whole time. Because, I think a lot of people, a lot of viewers, some of the discourse I saw online was this concern that is Kira just set up too perfectly, having not only a sibling in the game, but having a sibling that is the most confirmed faithful in the game, who is backing her no matter what, and she can keep alive no matter what. So to see you overcome that is huge, not only because Kira was clearly a very worthy adversary as a traitor, but then also her having the extra mileage of having her brother on the show.
Yeah, definitely. When you have somebody backing up all your claims, like when they're in the car with Cedric and it's two of them really talking about me, like, I'm shocked they weren't able to sway Cedric against me at that point. Because when two people are saying the same name, you're like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. They're backing each other up. They have 2 votes always to go together at the round table. They have information that they're sharing. Like, if it was my sibling in there, all I would have to do is look at them and know that they're a traitor. Like, there's no question of like, oh, are they a traitor? Are they not? And Kira and Nick are close. Like, Nick obviously knew. Kira had given the seeds of like Neta as a traitor. I really didn't know what kind of uphill battle I was up against with siblings in there.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to them. They both played really, really, really well. I'm shocked that it all worked out for me, honestly.
So you come in, and I have to imagine you had a bit of concern of like, all right, where they're going to know I'm from Big Brother. They're going to know my resume and like what I've done. How was your feeling upon, playing day to day, realizing, okay, a lot of these people don't know what I did?
Yeah, I think that was my biggest worry, was coming in with people knowing my Big Brother game. But the people who knew it, they admitted to me like right away. Like Kirkland, the first night, he's like, "Oh, I saw you on Big Brother here in the first conclave." I'm like, "Why are you guys telling me this? Like,
Right.
why are you just admitting to it?" There were a few points where I'm like, maybe there's other people who have watched and they're not telling me, but it just wasn't getting brought up. And I think I really built this persona of being this meek little girl in there that when Kira did bring up, "Oh, Neta was this and this," people just kind of brushed it off. I was also really nervous about the helicopter ride. I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm in the
Oh my God.
helicopter. They're gonna be like, one of them is a traitor." And I was on Big Brother. So I was like, I'm so screwed. How am I not first out?
Oh, that was the thing we thought about when we saw the chopper come in. And it's like, all right, so Gail, Neta, Mary Jo. Mary Jo's gone. The minute Gail leaves, they're going to be like, all right, so it's Neta then, right? We got to go Neta.
No, but like just so much happens in that house and it's so fast paced that you don't have time to really put all the clues together. If it was Big Brother pace and they had time, they had a week to think about each person, it really would have clicked in. But just because by the time the next day happens, 100 other things and clues have happened. So you're just not putting two and two together.
I did see, I read a little bit of an interview you did earlier, and you had mentioned that Traitors was harder than Big Brother. And I feel like I co-signed that, but what are the specific things for you that were the more tough round?
I think the reason why a lot of Big Brother contestants don't do very well on Traitors is the pacing of the game.
Yes.
Fact that it moves so quickly. Like Big Brother, you go and you have time to build these relationships. This on the first day, you already need to have your people. You need to have it figured out. It's so if you have a game move, you can't be like putting in seeds. It's like, no, you just got to do it. Like you just got to be so quick about it. You have 10 minutes to gather your people. You have this little car ride to like convince them, and that's it. So it's definitely the pace of the game is so much harder, and you don't have time to think in there.
Yeah, I mean it's a whole pressure cooker. I mean, but it's also a pressure cooker, but also like an air fryer because it's gonna be quick. It's gonna be a lot quicker than Big Brother would be. Neta, you have now won. And as I am an authority in the Traitors because I've watched all the English speaking ones, so I can say this. I think one of the best Traitors we've ever seen on any of the shows. How do you feel? Because I remember Neta. To me, you were the first. I know we had Tala, but you were the first Persian for me on reality TV that I was like, she got this. How do you feel finally getting the recognition you deserve, finally getting a win under your belt on a show?
Oh, it feels good because, like, honestly, how embarrassing would it be to have lost again? Like, that was my biggest worry. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassing. I'm going to lose again. But thank God it didn't happen. Tala was also my like inspiration for Big Brother 2 when I watched her because before Persians really were not on TV. It was Tala that did it.
She was the first. She was the first. We had her. We had Shireen on Survivor one season, and then it was Neta. And then after Neta, we had a bit of a quiet one. Then we had Mackie, and I was like, all right, Mackie, you left immediately. Good. We got Venus now. We're cooking a little bit here, Neta. I love it.
Yeah, no, we're doing good. Brown power.
Yeah. Yes. So I did see some clips of you watching with your castmates last night, getting to celebrate the moment. How's your relationship with everyone on the cast?
Really good. The cast gets along really well. Tranna and I talk constantly. We're very close. Like she's been so supportive. I don't know if I would be that nice if I was her. Like I don't know. I feel like I'd be more. No, actually, I was gonna say I feel like I'd be more bitter, but I ended up becoming like really good friends with Cindy after she eliminated me. I did a John, so maybe not.
Yeah, it's tough. Like just watching that scene where you see Tranna with so much, you better be a faithful Neta, and you have to stand there and now tell her that I'm sorry, I was a traitor. I do feel like you delivered it perfectly. You're like, I was given a role. I had to play this role. Like you can't fault me for that. But what were the emotions like once it was done? Once it's like, okay, Lauren left, it's the two of you, because you still can't immediately jump up and down. So what were you feeling in that moment?
I wasn't even happy because I'm like, oh no, now I gotta tell her. Can we just like skip this part? Can I just not say anything? And if it had been anyone, there were a few people I was close with in that house, but Tranna was the hardest person to do it to for sure.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of us for getting that far in the game. Traitor or faithful to get to the end. It's so hard. It's even harder for the faithful. So she really killed it.
Neta, you mentioned that the money's for mom, the win is for me. How was your family's reaction to you winning?
My mom's like, finally.
Oh man, Persian parents, man, they're like, good. What you should have done, yeah. Okay.
What? Why an A? Why not an A plus? No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. No. My mom's been so supportive. She's been so sweet. She's having so much fun watching the episodes. I'm in Paris, so the episodes air at like 4 a.m. there. So I stay up and she's like texting me as she's watching it. It's really cute.
So Neta, you came back from reality TV, what it felt like a retirement, coming back into the Traitors. Is this it, or is this a reopening of like, oh, is this it?
What else am I gonna do? I'm gonna lose the next thing. Like, why? Why shouldn't I just end it here? No. If there's some way I can go on a strategy-based competition show where no one knows me, sure, but there's no chance of that now. Like, put me, I don't know, what's like a country that like I'd have to learn a new language for them not to know me. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Well, listen, ending it on a high is perfect. We all listen. We knew you got it, so now you've got the title as well. You've got the sash, you've got the crown, the tiara, the money. So it truly is like going out on top here. But listen, if you ever end up want to be on another show, fire up that I believe we have a Duolingo family account that has one user open. If you're trying to learn a new language, okay, we got you.
Okay, yeah, maybe we'll see.
Well, Neta, same. Honestly, I don't know how some of these people do these streaks. I would lose in 2 days.
No, too much effort. I can't even text people back on time. Like,
We are very the same. A lot of friends would testify to that for me as well. Neta, I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I know you got to run and you got a lot more interviews to do. I'm just so grateful that I got to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving us a very fun season. Your entire cast killed it. You come away with the crown, and it was just the perfect ending to a very perfect season for me.
thank you. I am very grateful to the faithfuls. I know they got a lot of flack for not being the best, but genuinely, I think half of them weren't that good, but the other half, they were playing well. No, they were playing well. I think their strategy was just get to the end of the game no matter what, and it could have worked out for them. Like, I don't think they're as bad as even I was saying in the confessionals.
I feel like you gotta hit him with the snark in the confessionals for sure, though. But I just talked with Kevin, and hearing him talk, he has a good mind for the game. I was like,
He's so smart.
Yeah.
I keep telling him, like, you got to do Big Brother. Like, you're so smart. Like, get a US citizenship or something. Like, do Big Brother. He would do so well.
Hey, and then we would be watching the feeds together, Neta, and we see how that play out. All right. Thank you so much, Neta. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and congratulations once again.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
Of course. Have a good one. Welcome back, everybody, to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here in RHAP. I'm your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Zanbakili, and I'm joined here by someone who self-proclaimed themselves as a dumb faithful, but I would like to lightly push back on it. Welcome in, Tranna. How are you doing at this hour?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm happy I get to talk to you. Tranna, what a night. What a night. First of all, how do you feel having relived the finale last night?
Luckily, I was with a couple of friends, and surprisingly, it made me emotional. I think there's definitely a little PTSD in relation to this whole experience. Not necessarily in a bad way, just in a way that this was a really intense experience. It's a really brutal game, honestly. There's a lot of fun that's had, of course. But by the time you get to the end, it's so emotionally draining. It's physically exhausting. And I think also yesterday, I just felt this sort of bittersweetness of like, wow, the experience is really over now. Because it's kind of like there's two chapters to the experience. There's the lived experience of actually playing the game. And then there's the experience of watching it along with everyone over these last 10 weeks. And now both chapters are over. And there's a part of me that's relieved and very happy to move on to other things. But there's another part of me that feels sort of bittersweet that it's all over.
Yeah, listen, for us covering the show as well, it has that same feeling. Once week 10 hits, you're like, damn, this was, because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, one by very quickly.
Yeah.
In the moment, it feels like it's going forever and it's great, but then it's gone. Tranna, that means we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things that went on this season. I think my first question for you is, what was your experience or your knowledge experience with Traitors coming in? How familiar were you with the show?
I was a really big fan. I had watched the 2 UK seasons and the 2 US seasons. So this was something that I wanted to do very badly. As I was watching the show as a fan, and I have friends, a lot of my friends are big fans of the show internationally, watch all the seasons. And, you know, with a few in particular, I was texting them and just being like, I want to do this so badly. And, you know, I think the difference though is that like maybe in comparison to Neta, I was a fan of the show, not a student of the show or a student of the game, you know? So I think that that kind of messed with me because I wanted to go in being the best faithful ever. That's what I really wanted. And I think I maybe in some way even tried to force that to happen at the expense of maybe a more thoughtful approach, although I did my best.
You gave it your all. You know, so you get the one shot. It's your 8 mile. You want to make sure you do the best you can and not leave anything, you know, on the cutting room floor. And I feel like that's really the game I watched you play, which was you gave it everything you had. You made sure to not leave any stone unturned. And it was a very entertaining, but also very explosive gameplay to watch play. A little bit of a roller coaster, would you say?
Absolutely. It's, you know, there were times that were really funny watching it back because I'm not a confrontational person at all. I know that might sound
Really?
really hard to believe. As much as I am a performer, I'm really an introvert by nature. Anything that resembles confrontation really freaks me out in real life. But I think that I just surrendered myself to the experience. And again, as a fan of the show, I wanted to have the full lived experience. And so
Hmm.
I just threw myself into the deep end. And I think also because the shoot is so grueling and I personally was so exhausted that when you're in that sort of mentality, all of those parts in your brain that sort of censor you or keep you in check or keep your emotions in check, like that all goes out the window, you know? Like obviously what you saw was me, but it was a me under a very pressurized situation and being really exhausted on every level.
Yeah, well, it's you want a lack of sleep, you want to like lack of just like your mind's constantly turning. I feel like it would turn anybody inside out. Like it's a lot to go through.
Yeah, it's funny because I did Quebec Celebrity Big Brother and I was in the Big Brother house, no exaggeration, for 3 months. And it's the same production team that does Quebec Celebrity Big Brother and The Traitors. And the producer that I know, who I worked with closely on Big Brother, she warned me that The Traitors was going to be more intense. And I didn't believe her because I'm like, I lived in the Big Brother house for 3 months. This is like 11 days max if you make it to the end. I'm like, how hard can it be? But she was right. It was so much more intense.
That's what Neta was saying as well, talking about the pacing and how intense, like the relationships become a lot more intense because it's all built so quickly. I feel like people talk about how the friendships coming out of a Big Brother season are so strong because, you know, with a regular friendship, you text a little bit, you hang out for 3, 4 hours a week. This is every day you're working on those relationships. And I feel like with the Traitors, even more so because at the end of it, you're also kicking people out of this house very quickly at a rapid pace.
Exactly, and we don't get to say bye to anyone. When they leave, when they're banished, they're
That's
gone. They
it.
don't come back into the room and say their goodbyes after the cameras turn off. Like, we don't even get to say bye. And I think another big difference too is that on Big Brother, there's so much downtime. You know, like if there's someone that I want to strategize with, or if there's someone that I want to talk to, I could grab them aside and talk to them for 2 hours if I wanted to. Here, if I'm having a one-on-one conversation in the Traitors, I'm lucky if I can grab someone for 10 minutes and have their undivided attention. So the limited amount of time to really talk, I think, was a big obstacle in this game.
It's not a lot of time, and also you're trying to go with your gut, your instinct, and you're like, well, this is the conversation I had and it was good. I just have to ride with this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Whereas like Big Brother, you can really, you know, spend that time, really solidify the plans and also put the pieces together. It's
Mhm.
hard to put the pieces together when time is so limited.
Right. Which brings me to what I wanted to ask you, which is, of course, your relationship with Neta that plays a big part in the way the season goes. So we see the two of you have this discussion last week when Neta says, listen, I have this like inkling, this feeling. I'm looking at Kira. and then y'all end up getting Kira banished that night, and Kira is a traitor. Was there any part of you at that time that felt, okay, I just saw Michael John go out at the hands of Kira. Kira was a traitor. Is Neta a traitor? Did that cross your mind?
Sadly, not at all. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it did. It really didn't. And, I think that's one thing that's really missing from this season, and maybe all the seasons of the Traitors, is that you don't really get a sense of the depth of the relationships and the friendships, Like, me and Neta were so close. Like, every morning when we would both be alive, obviously she was always going to be alive, but I didn't know that. There was this genuine sort of relief and excitement to see each other. And, she said it at the end, like everything was genuine. And I think that that's why I really bought it all. Whereas if Neta was just using me to get what she wanted and the friendship wasn't real, I would have picked up on that, And honestly, I made the exact same mistake in the Traitors as I did on Big Brother. I did the exact same thing twice. I was blinded by friendship and girl power. And I think that those are great things in real life. And friendship is such an important, deep part of my life that now that I've done it twice and I've made the same mistake twice, now I know in the game, no matter how close you are, you do not let your guard down for a moment, truly. Like, you have to be able to maintain that separation. And that's been my weakness, because friendship is everything to me. And I've let it affect my game, because when you make moves against your friends in the game, you're not actually doing anything against them or the friendship. It's just the game. Right. And I do genuinely know that. It's just that I get blinded.
Well,
I feel like by the love.
First of all, no one can or should fault you on that, because friendships, love, affection, these are all, like, we need this. I like this. It's like a warm blanket. Who doesn't like a warm blanket? Okay. Yeah. Even in the summer, I want a blanket, but that's a whole conversation. Like, I just love a blanket anyway. But I think the biggest thing too is that because the friendship was so strong, the connection was so strong, it's kind of like, this is our shared experience.
Exactly. And so when we got Kira, like, I felt privileged that Neta was sharing that information with me, because, and I know that she really put this on. Like, I saw the notes that she wrote on Instagram, and she told me all about her guide and everything after. Like, I know that she was trying to convey this energy of fear and insecurity and being intimidated at the round table. And I really believe that, presentation. So when Neta came to me as someone who had been quiet at the round table, but not quiet with me, you know what I mean? Like, we spoke a lot about the game and everything. So to me, I never saw Neta as quiet. I did see her as someone who was scared of the round table. So when she finally felt comfortable enough to go for something, for me, it carried a lot of weight, and I felt sort of privileged that she trusted me with this theory that she had that she was scared to share. And of course, in hindsight, trust me, I've been beating myself up, because the equation is so simple. It's like, we never got a traitor, but then we finally got Michael John. Who was gunning for Michael John? It was Kira. And then suddenly we get Kira right after. Who was the one that planted the seed on Kira? It was Neta. No one ever said Kira's name before that, ever. So I know that it's this very simple 1 + 1 = 2 equation. But when you're in there and you're living this, it's not as direct as it seems. But it is at the same time. Like, trust me, I have beaten myself up over it.
Well, there's also a lot of other variables in other people in the manor. And we do see this for you, especially coming into the final roundtable, where you've got this relationship with Kevin that's been brewing, where the two of you have talked about making it to the final two together. And also, meanwhile, Neta's trying to push Laurie out here. Kevin's trying to push Lauren out. And you are in the middle. Now, obviously in the middle, but with your allegiance very clearly to Neta. But what was it about everything that was going on there that ultimately, A, caused y'all to find out that Kevin was doing the old double dip, and then B, causes Kevin to be the one to go out?
Right. Well, Kevin came to me so early with this final two deal that it set off alarm bells for me, because it was like 3 days before the end, and I just felt like, what is it within him that makes him feel so confident that he's going to get to the end? And I also know that obviously, having watched other seasons in general, faithfuls want to end up in the end with someone who really trusts them. So I felt like Kevin was setting me up for his victory.
I
It
see.
really made me feel like he was a traitor starting to plan the end, who maybe was even getting a little overly confident. So it just set off a lot of alarm bells. And then when Laurie and I were talking and she shared a very similar experience, like I think we both didn't want to say Kevin's name because if he really was a traitor, we wanted to remain close to him. Like we didn't want him to murder either one of us. But when at the car ride after the last mission, when Laurie and I were basically like, it was Kevin that told us and made that same pact with each of us using the exact same words. It was just, I don't know, it was just too hard to overlook that, you know? And either way, like we were being lied to. So when you're that close to the end of the game, it's hard to trust someone who's lying to you in such a big way over something so big as the final two.
It's obviously going to be hard to rewind time and follow a different path, but I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. If the reveals were turned on, if they reveal Kevin is a faithful, if they reveal Cedric is a faithful, do you think anything for you would have changed as to who you were looking at in the final four?
Honestly, it's hard to say because I think that so in the car ride on after the last mission, Laurie and I also just had this moment where I just flat out asked her, "Are you a faithful?"
Yes.
And the way that she said yes to me, I felt it in my soul. And I had suspicions on Laurie early on, but honestly, they were dwindling like with each day. Um, but I still had that tiny little bit of suspicion left just because I had kept it for so long, you know? So it's hard to say if it would have been different. What I do think would have been different, and I honestly, this kind of makes me upset, especially because I just watched Australia season 2 this week.
Oh my God.
What would have been the game changer for me is if after the 2 banishments, even if they didn't reveal who they were, if we just got to have one more conversation.
Yes.
Because we were not allowed to talk to each other as soon as Cedric was banished. Whereas, like, when I was watching Australia season 2, after their last banishment, they're in the manor having conversations. So I know it's not a hard fixed rule that you're not allowed to have conversations after the last roundtable because it's happened in other seasons. That would have been the game changer, I think. If there was anything that could have gotten me off Neta, it would have been a final conversation with Laurie after the last roundtable before the fire.
I feel like, and that's the big thing is when they say trust your gut and instincts, they mean it because you are basically now on mute until the game is over or you get banished and you have to say like you know just walk away.
Exactly. Which to me, and I would love to know your take on this. Because I was listening to your recap of the finale, and I know both you and Scally, you like the idea that the final banishees don't reveal their identity. But to me, if you couple that setup where they're not revealing their identity, plus the faithfuls are not allowed to have a last conversation, I just feel like that's a major advantage to the remaining traitors. And they already have had the upper hand for the entire game. Like they all, so to me, there's an element of it that just feels a little frustrating.
I think that's a very valid bit of frustration to have because I think especially looking at from where Neta is riding solo, which is essentially the final 7, let's say final 6 because she gets a murder before the round starts.
Yeah.
It really is one of those things where, and I've seen this on other seasons where the it's so clearly close to the end and the reveals are happening. I think, and you know, again, skip ahead if you don't want to get spoiled on an international season audience, but I think it was New Zealand 1 where there was a the final fire truth, there was reveals of like, and I'm a faithful, and I'm a faithful. And the body language of the final traitor was so damning that they vote him out, which it's a tough question to ask because I think for the players, obviously, you're facing a huge disadvantage by no longer being able to reveal anything.
Yeah.
On the podcast last night, we talked about it, and I was like, I like it because it fits a narrative of like, okay, now we're shifting it to your gut only. You've been riding with your gut. Now you have to ride it out to the end. And I feel like that's a good justified storyline way to include this as part of it. But of course, I think that it greatly gives the advantage over the Traitors remaining, and it hugely disadvantages the Faithfuls. But I guess ultimately, with more seasons that'll come, if this format sticks, I think the meta of the game would shift where people know to have all their combos beforehand to be as structured as they can. Whereas in this early growing pains of the show, you don't quite know. I think it was, I don't remember who it was that mentioned it, that y'all didn't know there was going to be 2 banishments back to back as well.
Exactly. We didn't know anything. We didn't know that
Right.
there would be 2 banishments back to back. We didn't know that they would not be revealing their identity. I agree with you. Like, and also I had not seen Canada season 1, so I didn't even know that it was possible that people wouldn't be revealed.
That's
like, I
a
didn't
huge
even
one
know
to
that
know,
was a thing. And I remember being in my last confessional that night and being so upset about it. Like, just being like, what have you guys done? Like, this is so unfair. And, you know, like, yeah, I think it will be more fair as there are more seasons and people can anticipate that this might be a twist. And as you said, they'll know to get all their ducks in order before, because there's the risk of that happening. Whereas we were just blindsided, you know?
Right.
And it just felt like it kind of erased all the work that we had done, because as much as we had gotten everything wrong, like, you know, we worked to get to the point where we ended up. So whatever little advantage we ended up with by being the worst Faithfuls and sort of having the last traitor really cornered and, you know, in a very precarious situation, I just kind of hate that we lost the one advantage that we actually kind of worked for.
Yeah, and I will say because I think for the audience, obviously, it's a better payoff, because I feel like there were a couple moments in the final fire where I was gobsmacked and I wasn't sure. I think number one was seeing 2 people opt to end the game immediately. And then your vote shocked me, because when you voted Lauren, we get this pan to Neta, who clearly looks surprised.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, it's going to be a 2-1-1. They've split the votes and the other 2 are voting Neta. Like, I think you don't get those moments if it's already locked in and organized as well.
I totally agree. And also, just to let you know what was up with that.
Yes, please.
The 4 of us girls made a pact to go to the end, you know?
Okay.
So we knew we were going to vote Kevin, and we sort of promised each other we're going to vote Kevin no matter what. That's why I didn't want to have that last conversation with Kevin, not because I don't love him, but I just felt like I know what I'm doing and I'm exhausted. I don't have another conversation left.
Right.
So the plan was to go to the final 4 together and end the game, all vote green. So, and I was in my last confessional, which you don't really see, like, I was really confused. I was like, I still have this tiny doubt on Laurie, but we made this pact and I was so torn. And I'm like, you know, that money would mean a lot. But I was just like, you know what? This is the pact, and ending the game with these women is amazing. That's my win. So when I get to the fire, Lauren starts giving me these looks. And when Karine says, vote red if you want to banish again, Lauren was like nodding her head. So I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I was just so confused. So I'm like, okay, Lauren's kind of signaling to me to go red, so I'm going to go red. And then when Lauren went green, I was like, am I being set up? Like, she just told me to go red and she's going green. I'm like, it all just got so confused. So even though, and I didn't have time to really analyze what that was, it's all happening so fast. So I just saw it as this betrayal, or like that I was somehow being set up. And that's what made me vote for Lauren, who up until that point, I never had any suspicion on. So it was just, I think it's a very fitting, chaotic end to a very deliciously chaotic season.
It really was delicious. Your cast delivered. I know that we on the podcast, I know people out there have said, you know, the loud and wrong season, the faithful. Without y'all, this would not have been half as entertaining as it was. And to me, and we talked about it last night, this slots right into my top 3 of Traitors seasons.
I know. And honestly, when you said that, I just, like, it made me feel so happy and so proud, because if you're saying it, like, it's truly the highest honor. And I feel really lucky that I got to experience it with this particular cast. Like, everyone was genuinely so lovely. But I just want to say, as much as I love them and as much as I was loud and wrong, like, I think it needs to be acknowledged that a lot of these faithfuls were not doing themselves any favors.
No, they're being suspect as well. Like, that's worth saying something as well. So yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Is that I think people will look at the track record and be like, wow, they went like 0 for 8. But also, I feel like of the 0 for 8, probably like at least like 3 to 5 of them were doing it to themselves. We're being suspicious.
Like, you know, and sometimes people, when they like, because I have to admit, like, I haven't been able to resist reading the comments. Like, I've read a lot of comments. And it genuinely doesn't affect me personally. Sometimes I get maybe a little annoyed, but not hurt. But, you know, a lot of people will be like, how is she not seeing it? How is she not seeing it? A traitor does this, 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 and this. And I'm like, those are all the things that Aaron was doing. Like, Aaron fit the profile to a T. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, is like we get, you know, the show has a very hard task of shoving a whole day's worth of content, missions, suspicions, roundtable, banishment, conclave into what, 45 minutes?
Exactly.
So we're not going to see everyone's mannerisms. We're going to see the ones that end up mattering. But the reality is a lot of these people be sus. And,
exactly.
you know, yeah.
And honestly, like, I know that sometimes it would seem like my theories were coming out of nowhere at the table, but like, these were theories that I discussed with many people throughout the whole day. You know what I mean? It wasn't just me being reckless and just like blurting out the first thing that came to my mind.
No, and
although I own the edit, like, I couldn't be happier. Like, I am an entertainer, and the fact that I got to really entertain people, even though I wasn't necessarily trying to, like, that makes me really happy.
And I want to give you your flower because not only on the show, like we get a confessional right after your heart is shattered into a million pieces when you find out that Neta is the traitor. We get a confession from you giving Neta her props for being that good of a player. I've seen your activity on socials where you're having fun with it. You're posting the stitch of you watching the episode and you're like, these are the 4 traitors. And you're like, wrong, I was wrong. And I feel like leaning into it is having fun with it, recognizing that, again, it is a game. And, you know, you come in with these convictions, with these reads, you're going to get some right, going to get some wrong. Sometimes it's going to be more wrong than right. But ultimately, you gave it your all. You had your fun. And again, no joke, you made it to the final 2. I feel like no matter, despite not having a win under your belt here, getting to the end of this game isn't easy. There were a lot of faithfuls that dropped very early on that couldn't get to where you were.
Exactly. No, and honestly, to be able to end it with Neta felt perfect in a way. It was the second best outcome short of winning. And
yeah,
you know, I saw this tweet earlier today that it was like, the queen of entertainment and the queen of strategy couldn't dream of a better final 2. And I really do feel that. Like, I'm proud of Neta. I'm super happy for her. She came so prepared. She came to win. I came to have fun and play the game, you know? And I think that we both got what we wanted. And I think that we both helped each other get what we wanted. Because if she wasn't a traitor, like, I do believe that she was my traitor angel. I don't think that I would have made it that far without her. And I don't think that she would have won without me either, because there was a lot of sus on her between Kevin, Cedric, and Laurie, you know, like, and Nick, if he had made it. I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is that me and Neta helped each other get exactly what we both wanted from this experience.
Yeah. And Tranna, I know I've taken a lot of your time here and we have to end this, but this was a very fun conversation. I'm so glad I got to pick your brain on things. We got to laugh, we got to reminisce, and I felt like I was in the manor talking to you. So thank you for that experience.
I've been looking forward to speaking to you, honestly. So thank you so much. I'm trying to think if there's something that I haven't said that I should say, but I guess that's pretty much it. You know, I guess if I were to do anything differently, I just would have worked more closely with Laurie, because we really did have a deep connection as well. And she was so on it at the end. Like, she saw everything for what it was.
If you were to get asked to play again, is this when you put the cloak on? Are you going to traitor it up? Or are you like, no, give me a second chance at a faithful here?
I think give me a second chance as a faithful.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good. Real redemption arc.
Yeah, because even going into it, like, I wanted to be a faithful, because my favorite part of the show as a fan is the round table. Like, I want to be an investigator. I don't want to be the murderer that's hiding in plain sight. I loved being a faithful. That's what I wanted. And, you know, I think that, yes, The Traitors is a sort of murder mystery and it has that sort of spooky vibe and all of that. But I've always seen it as a comedy of errors.
And a comedy it was. It was a bit of a drama, a bit of a comedy, a bit of a disaster, but ultimately it was entertaining television for a lovely 10 weeks of our lives. And we do thank you for making that happen.
Thank you for watching.
Of course. Have a good one, Tranna. Take care.
You too.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm, of course, your host, the Duke of Deception. And I'm joined here by Laurie, the first person taken out at the Fire of Truth. Laurie, how are you doing at this moment?
You know, I'm doing great. I'm having some mixed emotions today. I think we all do the day after. I'm feeling, you know, proud, tired, happy, but also really sad that this whole journey is over.
And what a journey it was. This was a very fun season for us at home watching it play out. Before we get any further, though, I would like to know, how familiar were you with the franchise coming into the show?
I was very familiar. So my story is kind of a unique one. Last December 7th, I got the news that my dad had died. And we had a terrible December. And The Traitors was the show that our family actually leaned into after his death. It was the show that we immersed ourselves in and we distracted ourselves with and we cuddled with on the couch in front of the fireplace. And it was a show we just totally sank ourselves into. And this was before I got the call to say, hey, do you want to be part of this process? So it was a show I was very familiar with. That I had a strong connection to heart-wise, but that it always was a show that I enjoyed the head part of the game and watching people, you know, the ruthlessness of it and the deception of it. I was totally immersed in the Traitors world at this point.
Lovely. And then you got even further immersed by being a part of the show itself. So coming into the season, were you hoping to be part of the ruthlessness in the form of a traitor, or were you happy to be a faithful?
You know, I mean, I had moments of back and forth, but ultimately what I knew in my heart is that teachers are the most like creative, resourceful, problem solving, like noticers of the world. But what we lack is like control and power over what we do. So ultimately, I really was hoping that I would be a traitor. I thought, okay, this is going to be great. I can show that side of me, but with the control and the power that I lack in our system and in our classrooms. I say that until the choosing of the traitors at the round table. I had a full physical reaction. I was convinced that point. The only reason they brought a kindergarten teacher in was to be chosen as a traitor. And in that moment, I panicked. I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. This must be the only reason they brought me. So I must say, when I was chosen as a faithful, there was a moment of relief where I thought, okay, this is the role I meant to play here.
You're like, please don't pick me. Please don't put your hand on my shoulder.
Don't. Yeah, at that point, it's very real to go months thinking like, yeah, put me in, coach. I'll be a traitor, to like actually sitting there. I thought, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this.
So we get through the process. You aren't a traitor and you're navigating the game as a faithful. In the early goings, who were some of the connections you were making and who were the people you trusted?
Oh, it was so great. The first night I connected with Chris. I was like, hey, this could be my ride or die. Gone. Gone. The next day, I'm like, you know what? I really felt this strong connection with Nichelle. Like, I really like Nichelle. Gone.
The kiss of death, Laurie?
I don't know. I started to take it personally. I got so paranoid. I thought people knew I had connections with people and they were just taking them out. Like, it was that strong. You know, connection with Dylan was really strong. He was the first person I really said, like, I think these people are traitors. And I really felt like I could lean into Dylan. I respected his game so much. And obviously in the end, you see, I mean, I really had a strong connection with Kevin. Kevin walked me through this process. Like, so much. We were, I really thought when I said in front of you, I need a ride or die. I purposely said that in front of you, Kevin. Like I really wanted that. And Tranna, Lauren, I mean, there were so many people in the end that I knew I'd built really strong connections with. Even if they thought I was a traitor, I was really secure in those relationships and connections.
I'm glad you mentioned those names because we might as well fast forward to the final episode and where we landed with everything. So it was very clear coming into breakfast the next day that you felt like, I'm starting to look at Neta here. Was it all to do with Neta being the vocal one to get rid of Kira, or were there some other things that kind of complemented that suspicion?
I mean, I think there were other things that complemented that suspicion. That's a beautiful way to put it, because sitting at the round table, Neta's body language is always a little off to me. I say to her when I vote for her the night before, like, I don't know, like some performances are big, like Kira's over here, and some are small. And I could see her breath and her chest moving. And I swear I could see her heartbeat from 2 chairs away. And there was just something off about it to me. But there was always, we had a conversation early on that I didn't know her game in Big Brother. Obviously not if we knew it. I mean, if we knew, Kira knew it and Kirkland knew it, and that was about it. So I think the suspicion was kind of going along for the whole game, but I didn't have enough concrete evidence to take to the round table.
Okay, so then in this round, we do see a lot of scrambling, a lot of movement. So correct me if I'm wrong. Before going into this, you had this thing with Kevin. You felt good with him. You have this feeling of a final 2 formed with him. Was the final 2 gameplay for y'all, to your knowledge, you're going to the end with Lauren and cutting Lauren?
My knowledge was we were going to the end with Tranna.
With Tranna and cutting Tranna. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the cutting Tranna part, I still wasn't sure on, right? I just thought in the end, the possibility was going to be Kevin, Tranna, and I. Kevin had told the same story to me and to Tranna. And ultimately, that was the Kevin downfall. If Kevin had said, yeah, Laurie, I actually did say that to Tranna as well. Here's my plan. We would have gone to the end together. But it was the saying like, no, I would never say that to Tranna. I would never do that with Tranna. You're my girl. And I just couldn't trust to take him to fire at the end.
Yeah, and that's really what it looked like for us as well, where it looks like his entire game unravels right before our eyes at the round table. How tense was that that final round table? It must have been brutal.
I think what you can't see is we are exhausted. We have been immersed in the game. Like that exhaustion, you can't really feel through the TV. But I think like, we'll see if they calm down there. But I think that ultimately it did unravel at that round table. And the thing was, I knew at that point, I had a strong suspicion it was Kevin or I. I knew that at that point, banding with those girls was going to be really important to me and getting me to fire. But that round table was incredible. It was a roller coaster ride. I mean, all of them were, but that final one in particular, I mean, the joy of making it to the final 4, but the sadness of having to vote people out that you thought you'd go there with, it was all over the place.
We did see upon Kevin's banishment that obviously Corinne says, okay, you have to trust your gut now, no more reveals. Yeah. And we see a confessional from Kevin saying that I'm happy this isn't happening because I don't think Laurie could handle it. How would you have reacted to finding out Kevin was a faithful in that moment had we seen a reveal?
You know, to be honest, sitting at that table in that moment, hearing him talk about, I'm going to get emotional, hearing him talk about his kids, I knew he was a faithful at that point. I was shocked when they say he wouldn't reveal, but I think at that point, I knew that he was. And ultimately, again, it came down to this whole thing of, can I trust him at fire? Right? It does get to that at the end where, yes, at this point, I am convinced it is Neta, but I know I don't have numbers. I know I've got more talking to do in the meantime to get her out. So at this point, taking Kevin to fire just doesn't make sense. So I'm so grateful and appreciative that he felt the need to protect me, but I'm a strong girl too. And I really did believe that he was a faithful at that point. It would have been really hard to hear, but I think it actually would have changed the game for everyone else at the table more than it would have for me.
Okay. So I have one question, and then we can talk about the fire of truth that occurred. So clearly at this point, you and Tranna have compared notes. You're like, Kevin, he's copy pasting us. We need to get rid of him. So was there an alternative discussion where, you know what, let's just do his plan. Let's go to the 3 and we cut him. Was there that conversation at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there was both of those conversations were happening, you know, and I think it was with the 3 of us the whole time, right? Tranna and Kevin are saying they're going to cut me. I'm saying to Kevin that I'll cut Tranna. Like, you know, it was all the mixes happening. And, you know I'll get asked eventually, like, what are your biggest regrets in the game and that kind of thing. That is one of them. Like, I really think a final 3 with Tranna, Kevin, and I would have been incredibly entertaining, but could have also worked out in my favor quite well.
So then let's get to the fire of truth, Laurie. Yeah. So you had brought up Neta's name previously. You kind of have to fight to survive just to get through to the final fire of truth. You're here. I was very surprised that you elected to end the game, especially because you were the one person that had said Neta's name. What can you run me through what went down over there?
So at that point, when we walked into Fire of Truth, I mean, it kind of shows it. You know, Neta's just staring at the fire. Lauren's kind of making eyes at me, making eyes at Tranna. I'm making eyes at Tranna. You know, like, so much is happening. And I think the big point to remember is we didn't get time to talk between the round table and fire. And honestly, I think that greatly affected what happened there because we didn't get that chance to talk. At that point, I'm convinced it's Neta. I just want nothing more to get Neta out, but I'm pretty sure I don't have the numbers to do it. When we go to vote to end the game or not, I have this decision to make as well about whether people think that I'm a traitor or not. So my whole thought is I was positive Neta was going to vote to banish again or to continue the game. So I was kind of relying on her to vote red, which she did. I did not think Tranna would. That was a complete shock to me. But my whole thought was if someone says banish again, I want to look more faithful. I want to look more faithful for that next vote if I am to make it. So I was kind of thinking a step ahead, trying to get that perception out there that I was faithful.
So then did you anticipate Neta voting you when it's banish again? Was your first instinct, all right, well, you're going to name me here?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second one was Lauren. Did you expect Lauren to put your name down? Because let me tell you, when we started seeing the votes revealed, I thought, oh my God, I think Tranna and Neta are going to split the vote and you two are going to get Neta out. I really thought Neta was going there.
I did too.
Wow.
To be honest, as we're voting, I mean, I look at that fire and it's happening all so fast. You're trying to process all of the things. All I know is what I truly believe. And I truly believe at that point, it's Neta. Now, I must say, when I looked over and saw that Tranna had voted for Lauren, I was so confused.
Oh, no.
It made me doubt because I thought, is Tranna the traitor? How is she possibly voting Lauren, who I never saw it coming? So I knew I was taking a risk going with those 3 beautiful women to the end. I knew I was taking a risk that I was that 4th that could be taken out, you know, the lowest in that little alliance. I knew I was taking that risk. So I think I was prepared for that. And, you know, when I walked out to that fire and Neta wouldn't look up, I just was like, that's it. My time is gone. I'm not going to get her. I'm not going to be able to rally the votes.
It's incredibly tough to be in a position where you're like, okay, I've pieced it together, but then again, you can't talk though. So stay quiet, stare at each other.
You know, and spending all that time alone, just processing before the fire, I just became more and more sure, which in the game, you know, I did struggle with that heart and head connection that I talk about, right? And so at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, it's all connecting. Heart and head are coming together. I know it's Neta. I've got this, only to get down to fire and be like, I'm not going to be able to convince him in the short amount of time we have.
Well, it was really an incredible season. We loved the finale. I think everything that went down, the emotions, the tension, it all translated through the screen. So it's great to get to watch it play out. Laurie, I have one last question for you before I know you got a lot of these interviews to do today. Your phone rings. They hit you up like, Laurie, we want you back in the manor. Is now the time? I know you said that when you were sitting waiting for that deliberation, you're like, I don't want to be a traitor.
Right.
Do you now, if you were to play again, would you like to be a traitor this time around?
You know, I told everyone in the manor that I was a one and done kind of girl. Like,
Okay,
this was a once in a lifetime experience, one and done. But,
but
as the months have progressed and with the closure I'm feeling today, put me back in. This kindergarten teacher wants to be a traitor. Let's go.
I love it. I love it. And hey, I hope you get what you're looking for. I hope it's fulfilled. Laurie, this has been an absolute delight. I do thank you so much for giving your time to me and talking to me for about 15 minutes here. I hope the rest of your journey here goes smoothly, and I hope you continue to enjoy the show that you love.
Thank you. And thank you for putting all the effort you do into talking to us and allowing us to process and get the closure and, you know, to talk this game that we love so much. So we're really grateful that we get to do this with you. I'm
very thankful of that. And I'm very blessed to be able to do so, Laurie. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Zanvikili. I am joined by the one and only Cedric, who was on the brink of making it to the Fire of Truth. Cedric, how are you doing at this moment?
I am good. Last night was it brought back anxiety, and I didn't know the ending, right? So it was really cool to actually watch the ending as a fan, like everybody else, right?
Yeah, Cedric, let me just say up front and be honest with you, because I want to have an honest conversation. Yeah. So I've not watched The Amazing Race Canada, but I was familiar with you because of your son, Tashawn, who was on BB Can.
Yeah.
But let me be the first to say it, or maybe more than, more people have said it as well. Cedric, you were so entertaining, man. You were so entertaining. You carved your own identity on reality TV, and it was an absolute joy to watch you both play the game and just beat the allegations for most of the game, basically.
Yeah, I had 22 altogether, I heard, to get banished. They never were able to pull it off because I have the gift for gab, and I'm able to defend myself. I should have been a defense lawyer.
Yeah. Cedric, so coming into the game, were you hoping to be a traitor, or were you like, listen, I'll be a faithful, I'll live my life?
I was ready to take either. As we sat down there, I was hoping to be a traitor to get more airtime and just be a villain, but they would have caught me right away because I wouldn't have been my true authentic self, right? Yeah.
And I mean, your true authentic self still caught you quite a bit of accusation. I feel like you mentioned, it took them a lot of roundtables to finally get you out, but for a while there, it was like if your name wasn't on a chalkboard, something had gone wrong.
Yeah. And here's the funny part. I had my bags packed after episode 3. It was ready to go. And I didn't know they kill you the next morning. I thought they killed you at night. So I'm in my room just waiting for that knock on the door. And then I was making jokes the next morning saying, yo, the traitors are messing with me. I'm missing a sock.
Oh, my God. So were you in a position where you felt like, okay, every day is a blessing, it's a borrowed day, one day at a time?
Every time I got up, I felt I got lucky. But after episode 4, I would say, I said something to Laurie, and I said, I think I'm scared they might kill. She goes, they're not killing you. You're beautiful. You're chaotic, and you bring you take attention off of them. And after episode 6, I knew it was going to be a quiet one. I knew I had a feeling Neta was one of them and Michael John, but I couldn't get anything on Neta because I took shots already and missed. So you don't trust your instincts. And the problem is when you don't trust your instincts, it's like you don't even want to say anything.
So then you felt like you were doubting yourself and you didn't want to present another name and then put yourself on the radar again.
Yeah. Because first episode, I when I got there, I met Rebecca, I met Kira, and I was good with them. I said, let's have a 3, a little alliance. And after the traitor was chosen, I felt like Rebecca was acting weird, but it was really Kara I was picking up on. But had I caught Kara instead of Rebecca, I would have got killed right away. I wouldn't have made it to the final.
Exactly. They
So
would have immediately
it worked
done
out in
that.
my favor that my ADDHD was off.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you're a good, faithful detective,
Yeah.
pretty much right after that, they're either going to get rid of you or they'll keep you long enough where everyone's like, why isn't he getting murdered? Okay, he must be it. Let's get rid of him.
That's why they took Enoch out. And the next night they said to me, oh, they got your buddy Enoch. Are they coming after you next? I'm like, they're not killing 2 black people in a row. I'm like, Black Lives Matter, but they didn't play that.
Oh my God. Cedric.
I had so many lines that cross because when you're a person of color, you can get away with stuff that other people can't. But these are real, true jokes, and sometimes they're scared to touch that stuff, right? But the choosing of the cast and representing everything was great. Every culture got represented at some point in that, you know.
Yeah, and I did love to see it. I really did. A nice, diverse cast, different walks of life. They really nailed it in the casting department. Cedric, so there's something to be said about the fact that Neta is our winner. She gets $71,000. She's not the only one going home with a bit of change, though. Okay, someone else made some money.
My chaotic self, Hurricane Cedric, earned me that $9,500. Not only did I go on the bridge and get the most, I took the most verbal beating on this show. So because of that, and they voted me the most least trusted, that helped me get that money. There's no way I was not taking that money.
Yeah, we're gonna call it the Cedric tax for many years to come.
We're in episode 8. We haven't caught one traitor yet. I know there's 3, possibly 4, and they're saying, well, do you want to add more to the pot? I'm like, no, I'm not paying off these traitors. They have the advantage right now. The less faithful they are, the more advantage the traitors have.
What do you think it said about you that they didn't, like, your cast, obviously you get banished ultimately, but they didn't seem to want to take you out as a result, whereas when it came to the Saints and the sinners, they were looking to get rid of the person who paid the $5,000 for the shield. What do you think it says about you that no one was really, at least from where I was standing, not really looking to get you out as a result of taking the money?
Yeah, because somebody bought that shield, right? And because Kira knew who it was, and Laurie had a suspicion of Mike, that brought a lot of attention to him, which took off of me. But when I got the money, why they didn't try to get me out after, it was because in their minds, that kind of cemented me as a faithful now, right? So they're like, wow, we did come at him so hard. I don't blame him for taking the money. Let's leave him alone right now.
And they did leave you alone, Cedric, until this wild final roundtable. Now, we saw people lobbying for your vote quite a bit. It seemed like you were kind of in the middle as the people looking at you as the potential final piece to their puzzle.
Yeah.
What were some of the pleas you were given, some of the offers you were given, and what made you go the direction you did ultimately?
When you were talking about the final episode?
Yeah. I'm talking about like they were looking to get you as their 4th to vote out Laurie for a minute there.
Yeah. So how that day went around was Kevin and I. Kevin had never said final 2 to me. I was trying to get him to say final 2 to me, and I said, okay, he's not. His mind is elsewhere. So in my mind, it was myself, Kevin, and I knew they're coming after Laurie. I knew it. So if we had those 3 and we could take out one of the other, now we had numbers. And once we had numbers, because it would have been 3-3 maybe, if we got Laurie out, we were going after Neta next. But that was the key vote. When Kevin shot himself in the foot, and Laurie said, Kevin, I have to go with you. If she would have said Lauren, it would have been 3-3. I don't know who would have went, but that would have favored us so much. When Kevin was gone, I knew I kind of sunk into the chair a little bit. I knew I was next. And had I got to Fire and Truth, I don't care if there's three faithfuls left. I didn't care about. I said to everybody, I didn't care about the money as much as I would love to have a win. That me and my son were the only ones to have only father and son in the world to have 2 reality shows. That was my key to this. And I was this close. Very
close. So when the roundtable opened up, Cedric, we see you pleading to Neta, saying, Neta, there's still 2 traitors here. do not let them take this. Vote with me. At that point, had you cleared Neta, or were you simply looking at Neta as a fourth?
I wanted to get Tranna or Lauren out. And that way we have the numbers to get Neta.
Gotcha.
But she would, because we had a feeling she was going to be next. If we got to the Fire of Truth, we got Neta. We just, Kevin and I needed to get together because we never put each other's names out. So I trusted him, he trusted me. So that was, but Neta was the traitor, and we didn't know 100%. But I knew if I got Lauren out, Tranna was hard to get out because Tranna is so vocal. As much as she's wrong, she, be going after her was risky because we knew she wasn't a traitor. You know what I mean? But Lauren, we weren't sure about, and Neta, we weren't sure about. So we wanted Lauren out to get to Neta. Because we knew we had Laurie on our side, right? So it was me, Kevin, and Laurie. We have those three. We take Neta out. Four of us, four faithfuls go to the thing. And I think if the Fire of Truth had been me, Tranna, Kevin, and Laurie, we would have got Tranna out. And then the three of us would either split the money, or I think me and Kevin would have looked at each other and took Laurie out. I think that's what would have happened.
Man, Tranna just can't win the game.
No. But I'll tell you why Tranna got so much respect on this game, because she's watched every season like you around the world. So everybody trusted her instinct, right?
I see. Yeah.
I sent her a little note today. I said, Tranna, it was great working with you. I pleaded with you to work with me. We didn't trust each other. We would have caught today. And I just said, as a human being, I said, how do you feel, watching in the final? She goes, it hurt, but she had lost in Big Brother anyways. So it didn't hurt as bad. But I said, Tranna, if you would have went opposite to everything you thought, you would have won this game.
Okay. You're like, if you did everything the exact opposite, it would have been different. Yeah. So, Cedric, you mentioned this aspiration, the money not being the object, but being the first father-son to win a reality TV show. It doesn't pan out here. You eyeing some other shows? What are some other shows you'd like to take a shot at?
I'm a comedian. One of the jokes I have is like, there's not a lot of reality shows in Canada. I don't want to be on Amazing Race. I'm running through Saskatchewan. There's a rope around me. I'm like, man tracker, wrong show. So me and my son we just filmed Family Feud. It's going to come out in March.
Cool.
So that's going to be really cool to watch us both on there. And we are eyeing the American Amazing Race Canada.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And Aaron asked me, Aaron from Halifax that was on this season, he said, maybe we should go on Survivor, but I'm a car mechanic and comedian. I can't build a tent. I'll die on Survivor.
the element's not so much where you want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I just thought of a show. Yeah. In the event BB Can was to come back, would you take a shot at that? Could you do 70 days in a house with strangers?
Well, them knowing, they're going to know that Tashawn's my son. They're going to come after me off the beginning. I will be good at challenges, because that's how I was growing up. I was good at a lot of things, but I don't know. Marty was. I met Marty in Bathurst not too long ago. You know Marty from
from 10 BB Can.
Yeah,
10? Yeah.
And he was the oldest one in the house, and I'm gonna feel like I'm older than Marty. So I may not look it, but I'm 53. It'd be hard to be in with these little kids now, right?
Bit of an age gap. It could be an issue. Well, Cedric, your energy is absolutely infectious, man. We had such a fun time watching you play this show out. Good luck to you on the Family Feud. Hopefully, y'all can get the W there. Yeah. And we'll see what the future holds for you on reality TV in the future.
Thank you, Pooya. Very good. How did I say it right?
Pooya.
Thank you, Pooya. I'm Jamaican, Pooya.
You're
Thank
good.
you, Pooya.
Pooya.
Pooya. Thank you, Pooya. Very blessed. Have a blessed day. Thank you.
All right. Take care, Cedric. Have a good one.
What is this airing?
This will be dropping the minute I'm done interviewing everybody.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll check it out.
All right. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm, of course, your host, the Duke of Deception, Pooya Zanvikili. And with me is the one and only Kevin, gone right on the brink of getting the Fire of Truth. Kevin, how are you doing at this hour?
You know what? I'm doing okay. I feel like a little disappointed with the ending. I definitely had a game plan in mind going into that final day, and it didn't pan out. But at the end of the day, Neta, I got netted, and I respect the game. I was with her last night. We talked all about this stuff, and I feel like she deserved to win, but there were definitely a few things I could have done differently.
Kevin, it was I talked about this on our podcast last night that because I wasn't familiar with you before the Traitors, and I did not expect you to play on such a strategic level. The fact that you had a couple final twos lined up, you had a voting block ready to go for this end game, it really felt like if the roundtable was going to go one of two ways. It was either Neta prevails, or it really felt like you would prevail.
Well, I gotta say I was a fan of your guys' recaps. I listened to all of them from day one. Even though he chirped me at the beginning, I definitely knew you thought I might be coming in with not much gameplay. But I'm like a diehard Big Brother fan, diehard Survivor fan. I have like a lot of reality TV in me, and my wife is a diehard Traitors fan. And she's the one that convinced me to accept the invite
hell yeah.
to the show. Basically, I had a strategy from the beginning, and it was just, first of all, I asked to be a faithful, and I also said, I think there's an avenue to win from every position. You just need to find it. And I said, I'm sick and tired of this faithful versus traitor stuff. I said, I did not care who the traitors were. I just want to maneuver to the end. Michael John and I had lunch every day. When people were yelling, we need to get Michael John out. Michael John that day, the first day Kira brought him up, said, hey, brother, I'm really glad you're here. You're making this easy for me. And I said, I don't want Michael John to be gone. Like, the guy's up in the conclave, never speaking my name. So I had a strategy of just let my relationships and just get to know everybody and try to be friendly. And I had a cast list that we all had with the pictures and the name on it in our rooms. And every night my thought was, go through every person and just say, will that person banish me? And will that person murder me? I don't care what they are, but will they do? And if somebody I'm kind of iffy on, I say, okay, I got to work on them tomorrow. I got to make sure if there's any doubt that tomorrow, they'll like me again, or they'll take me off their radar. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciated that I actually had a strategy. I was actually going in thinking, this is how I want to get to the end. And I think the ending is just a crapshoot. I think it could have gone multiple ways, and unfortunately it didn't go my way.
Yeah, I do love that mindset, Kevin, because I feel like the Traitors being the baby franchise of reality TV now, every franchise has a second season maximum. We're seeing a lot of emergent strategy. We're seeing a lot of people figure out how to navigate the game. But one of the things that has been a big part of the discourse over here on the network has been if you're a faithful, getting rid of a traitor only worsens your odds, because there'll be a new traitor up there that you now have to find all over again. So kind of trying to corral them or keep them, especially to your point, if you don't think they're going to get rid of you, is huge.
Yeah, so you're literally speaking my exact thought through the whole game. I will use an example. When Michael John's name was first brought up, I was really close with Aaron. I was really close with Cedric, and I knew Cedric was a faithful. So I'm like, they're going to recruit him because he's got so much heat on him. I thought, I don't want him to be a traitor, because then my whole mindset is messed up. So I think, similar to what you said, people have won Big Brother in so many different ways. And I think it's a similar thing. If we look back in 20 years, there's going to be people that win the show with like the floater mentality, the big comp mentality. Like, there's always these different avenues. And I think I kind of turned it on right when I needed to. And when I did the final two thing, looking back, I didn't know Tranna and Neta were that close. I knew they were close, but I thought there was a bit of a crack where I could say, okay, Tranna, me and you final two, Laurie, me and you final two. And I knew if I was at the end with those two, it didn't matter. If those two banished me at the end, I would be like, all right, split the money. I know you're faithfuls. Like, I knew they both were. So my strategy was just Lauren 100%, Neta, it's got to go. And then we'll just kind of figure it out at the fire.
Which, listen, again, you came very close. I feel like this literally felt like a 3-3 that ended up breaking against your favor. Part of it because the two final twos had a little conversation, or at least that's how we saw it.
Yeah.
So how did you feel watching it all unravel at that roundtable?
So I knew something was up. When we got back from the mission, I was very much I got the cold shoulder from everybody. And I had this suspicion from Neta at breakfast, the way she was kind of brushing me off. I thought, okay, maybe I'm the next Kira. Like, I just had a feeling she woke up thinking, and clearly by her interviews, I was the number one target. I was the threat. I was the thing standing between her and winning. But watching the roundtable, I realized I knew that was how it was going to, like, when I walked in, I knew I didn't have Laurie 100% anymore. And I need to like do some damage control. And when my one lie of the whole game was brought up and it was thrown in my face, I thought, believe it or not, it was a lie, but I was also very genuine in the moment. Tranna and I just had this odd connection. We always just didn't really talk much in the first half. And in the second half, we just became really good friends. And in the moment, I thought, okay, I could be at the end with you. I know you're a faithful. I know I am. But Laurie was my ride or die. So I was kind of stuck between the two, but I was too stuck on getting Lauren and Neta that I didn't even think that Tranna was going to throw that out,
Right.
there and kind of blow up my spot a little bit. But, and I know Tranna and I texted a little bit about it, and she said that I didn't realize how genuine you were about it, in the moment. So yeah, watching it was tough. But I was sitting beside Neta watching it, so it was also kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin, the other thing I did like, and I want to give you your flowers for, is in the previous mission, not this one, the last one, when you were tied up in the forest. I did love the decision to play a little bit of game there with Tranna and like solidify this bond that you had, this bond, to kind of reiterate, listen, we're together in this.
Yeah.
I like using that opportunity because I feel like sometimes people will just like not do that in a moment like this.
Yeah, and I've done so many different kind of reality shows where this was the first time where time was so limited. Where, like, I know on Big Brother you got all this after dark time, you can do whatever. We were so limited to have those kind of chats, and I mean in the edit, I don't know if they showed how close we were, but I was still kind of yelling to her, like we were far enough. But I thought, okay, Tranna's by herself. There's a camera on her. I can spit some game at her, and hopefully she. And I honestly thought me and her had a good thing. Like I said, I didn't realize her and Neta were that close.
Right.
And if I would have seen that, I might have kind of tapered back a bit on the final two talk. But yeah, I went in when I woke up for that final breakfast. You could see it in my face in the episode. I was pretty like geared up. I'm like, I think I got an ending. Like I think I got away.
It was very visible. Now, Kevin, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Lauren, because we saw the two of yours relationship over and over, and the fact that both of you were Spider-Man meme pointing at each other, no, you're the traitor.
Yeah.
What was it about Lauren that made you feel so strongly?
So Lauren and I, similar to Laurie and I, we just became friends on day one. So the funny thing is, watching that back, Lauren and I have two completely different relationships. One of like a friendship when games not involved, and then as soon as the game clicked on, we were just like it's you. And once I kind of put myself in the head of producers, which is a bad thing to do. And I thought, who would I pick as the traitors? And I thought Lauren is like the perfect person for that conclave, for those interviews. And I think I got a little fixated on just how great she would be as a traitor. And once we started talking and we made that deal, and I don't think they showed our full combo, but the deal that we had was, I don't care if you're a traitor, you don't care if I'm a traitor. Let's just like keep each other safe no matter where we are. That was the first plan. And it didn't really break until that morning she came to me and said, Melinda is coming for you. And when she said Melinda was coming for me, and then Melinda ended up being a faithful, I just played this as, okay, she's definitely a traitor, and Melinda was a big threat, and she made me start it up. And once I got on that damn snowball of she's a traitor, I couldn't let it go. But looking back as well, it kind of did me, like even Neta said it last night when we were talking, she goes, you and Lauren weren't even a topic in the conclave because you guys were fighting. So my mind at night, I'd say if Lauren's a faithful, we're keeping each other safe. And if she's a traitor, she's keeping me alive. So I didn't really see a downfall to it. I just knew that at the end, one of us was going to have to go. And unfortunately it was her that sent me home.
I feel like this is a strategy we've seen a couple times where someone suspects someone to be a traitor, or they're like, listen, we're both faithfuls. Let's just throw each other. Let's just have a little tiff in public. That way no one's going to look at us and they'll think there's a feud that has to pay off. I think the only way that goes wrong is if when it's time to vote that person, you seem hesitant, which didn't end up being the case. I felt like you were very much like, yeah, Lauren's got to go. I feel like you brought it up enough that no one was looking at it like, well, that's kind of sketchy that you're not willing to let go of her.
Yeah, and I've been reflecting a lot since last night, and I realized I didn't have my name brought up at night, and I didn't have my name written down until the final roundtable. So my strategy was going the right way, and I think Lauren and I kind of did each other that favor. I think she might have been a target early on as well if it wasn't for me. I think us going back and forth was, and it sucks because we laughed about it right after filming. We said, "Are you kidding me? We're two faithfuls this whole time." But a lot of people enjoyed it. I had a lot of people say you guys were like some of my favorite parts were Lauren and I bickering. So, yeah,
it was incredibly entertaining, man. Because like the more we kept seeing it, the more I was like, okay, so they're endgame. They have to be endgame because why do we keep seeing this? And I really did love the way it all ends up playing out and watching the payoff there. Now, I feel like going into this final roundtable, it's very clear that it's a 3-3, obviously with you, Cedric, Laurie, and then Lauren, Neta, Tranna. in the event that Lauren does go at that round table and you have the numbers, I already talked to Cedric, and I feel like you probably were on the same page. Would you have been taking Neta to the Fire of Truth to vote out Neta, or would you have voted out Neta in the second banishment?
So in the episode, you hear me say, I'm writing Lauren's name down, and Neta, you're the first name I write down at the fire, because we didn't know there was a double round table. Like, nobody knew that.
Right.
They just sprung that on us. So we assumed 5 were going down to the fire.
Gotcha.
Because they gave us those minutes to talk, if I was still there, I would have just said, Lauren's gone, everybody, Neta's got to go. I would have just said it loud and proud. And now I know if we would have got Lauren, I think everybody, you saw Laurie, she suspected Lauren Neta the whole episode. Same with Cedric. So I feel like the tie break between me and Lauren would have been like the coin flip on who's going to be the one standing at the end. And I've played this scenario over a bunch of times where if I would have done a tie break with Lauren, it would have been Neta, and then we would have went to the fire, and it would have just been a crapshoot for. I don't think I could have been with Cedric at the end, only because he was on so many people's radars the whole season. I just didn't want to be the one with the egg on the face where it was like, oh, so he was a traitor after all.
Right.
You know, that would be a hard one to swallow. I'd rather be like, and it's almost something that he would understand, to be like, dude, your name's been spoke since day one. I can't not play again. So that's how I saw the ending. I just saw Lauren, and I said that to Laurie before the roundtable. I said, let Lauren and I hash it out in the tiebreak and then let us figure it out. But they had their hooks in Laurie all day, so it was tough.
So I have one more question for you. So you mentioned you're a fan of these shows, you've watched Big Brother, you're familiar with these things. How familiar were you with Neta as a Big Brother player coming into this?
So full disclosure, I knew who she was just from like the Canadian, like just the reality scene, but I didn't actually on the show. I watched, I'm all about the American Big Brother. I watched the odd season of the Canadian ones, but I wasn't like glued. I just knew who she was, and I knew. And it's funny because I picked her brain about Big Brother at lunchtime all the time. Like we just talked about reality TV. She asked about my wife is connected to a bunch of the people like in LA and stuff. We were just had a really good reality show, but I didn't know her reputation. And obviously now when I read the comments and I see how many people were behind her, I realize she had a really good backstory to make a traitor. I just didn't know that, and I don't think many people did. I think she was able to be just under the radar enough and she's such a sweetheart that everyone just liked her. And she played a really good game, and you got to give her, all the props for that.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things where I feel like when a lot of people saw her on the cast, the big worry was she is the lone Big Brother player. She's immediately going to get targeted. So to watch her navigate through was great to see. But I also think in the exit interviews, it is coming out that her reputation was well hidden, because I think a combination of her season having been her first one being 10 years ago, I was like, okay, I think enough time had passed where a lot of people weren't in the know of the Neta that we knew coming into this.
And the only person that was very vocal about it was Kira, and it was the day she was leaving. Like,
right.
And she knew everything. She was like, I saw you on Big Brother. I know you're this. And we were kind of at the table thinking, oh, was Neta like a villain? Like I didn't fully process, but it was just too little too late. But yeah, if we all would have seen, even Neta will say that if everyone would have seen all of my seasons, they probably would have suspected me a little more early on.
Well, Kevin, I will say, man, this was an absolute delight. I'm glad we got to talk. In the event that you were brought back for a second chance, a second shot at this, would you still want to be a faithful, or are you ready to put the cloak on?
I mean, that's a great question. I think I got to say, even watching some of the other seasons, I truly think if you can win this game as a faithful, it is so much more impressive than winning it as a traitor. And that's no disrespect to the traitors that have won, but to have an automatic advantage to know who's dying at night. We went to bed and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm not waking up. Like, it's a different animal. So, and I just loved that challenge part of it I mean, the traitor would be great, but I think I would just attack it as a faithful again and start building those relationships. But I don't think I can do this one again.
Well, I don't know what the future holds for you, Kevin, but I'm glad I got to get to know you through this avenue. Thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And good luck in whatever you do in the future.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me. And great job this season, man. It was a great recap. So you guys both.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. I will let Scally know for sure.
Please do.
All right, folks. We are back once again on the We Know the Traitors podcast over here on RHAP. I'm your host, the Duke of Deception, here with the most faithful to have faithfuled on Traitors Canada Season 2, the final person murdered at the hands of the traitors, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just finished watching the finale less than like 10 minutes ago, so it was quite exciting.
Yeah, it was an amazing finale. It does begin with your end as we see Neta plunge the knife into your heart right before the final round table. Were you anticipating being murdered that night?
100%. I was like so ready for it, just because as soon as I found out 100% sure that Kira, my sister, was a traitor, I was like, that's clearly the person keeping me alive this whole time. So as soon as she was out, it's like I didn't really have any alliances left. So I'm like, I have to be, I'm one of the only like true faithfuls left. So I saw it coming.
Yeah, you called that out in your confessional, which I thought was a very, it was good eyes, because you really and truly, Nick, from where we were standing, were the most confirmed faithful amongst everyone left, to the point where everyone was like, Nick is clear. So why is he surviving? What was it about you, and how were you able to so clearly be clear of all accusations, basically?
I'm actually not 100% sure. Like, I came into this game trying to not backstab anyone. I wanted to be nice to everyone, and like, that's what I was trying to do, to just have everyone's back, not lie and stuff. So thank God I wasn't a traitor. I was a faithful. So I just tried to, without having any specific like teams or alliances or whatever, I was just trying to be nice and wholesome to everyone. And even like while we're filming or off of filming, just try to help people where they needed it. And I just wanted to help build the pot, not even for myself, because at the end of the day, I didn't really want to win like that much.
Well, Nick, I talked to Kira last week, and Kira said you're not a good liar. Is Kira right, or would you push back on that?
I think she's right. She is right that I'm not a good liar. I do think I could be a better liar than she thinks I can be, but like growing up, I was kind of like more of a good child and stuff, so I didn't really have as many reasons to lie as much as like she did. She was a little more on the rebellious side than I was. Like, she was still like, she's a great person, all that stuff, but she's had a little more practice than me.
Hey, listen, the good news is with a reputation like that, that means that when you do need to run a gambit, the expectation is low, so you can get right through.
Exactly. No, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's how good you are, Nick. You're not even thinking deceptively like I am. I'm like, well, he could run one if he needed to. So, Nick, was there at any point, obviously before the banishment, that you were suspicious of Kira? I feel like that's the question that's going to be on everyone's minds, because there were moments where you're clearly about to ask her about it, but you're like, I don't even want to look at you. I don't want you to confirm it to me. But what was the percentage of your suspicions of Kira during this?
We'll say maybe 75%. It just seemed extremely likely because, as you said, like, I was like one of the most faithfuls of the faithful. So I'm like, why am I still here? I feel like I'm such an easy kill, especially on that one mission where I was one of the sins, right? And the sins are the only people who couldn't grab a shield. So, like, why not just get me out? Because it's a safe kill. Like,
yeah,
we know he doesn't have a shield. Like, he was one of the sins. So I was like, someone has to be protecting me or something, because it makes no sense. And I wasn't really that close to anyone in the game that I could see like, okay, this person needs me around except Kira. So I was like, to me, it seemed like logical. So I thought I was like 75% sure.
Yeah, it was very interesting to watch your relationship and to be on opposite teams. We've had a twist where people know each other coming in. We have not had it ever where one of them is on the traitor team and the other is not, let alone one of them being a very, very traitor and the other one being the most faithful of the group. But I want to divert it to your relationship with Michael John for a second here, where it seemed like y'all had good rapport and he was someone you were working with, or at least had a good relationship with. How can you describe more of that relationship to us?
So Michael John and I like bonded a little bit over fitness and stuff, and like we talked, and I'm a bit of an introvert, and I'm not 100% sure if he is as well, but there's a few times like during some meals and whatnot where he was alone and I was alone, so we had a few conversations. And it seemed like I had more conversations with him than other people. So whenever I saw suspicious behavior, I kind of trusted like that because like I think I got to know him more than other people. So were we like best friends on the show? Not necessarily, but like I think I got closer to him than more people did.
So you mentioned 75-25 on the sus on Kira. Who were some other people that were on your radar at that time?
I'm not gonna lie, Lauren was like really high up there, and I feel so bad because she turned out to be a faithful. But there's just like a few things. I think most of all, I was trying to deflect the attention and the blame off of Kira, so I was trying to find something for Lauren. And she had a few like suspicions and whatnot that seemed like weird to me, but like a potential like traitor pot and stuff. But yeah, so Lauren, and then a little bit on Neta. But the problem with Neta is she was so quiet the whole game, like that I had nothing on her. So at night I would go back to my room and I had like a sheet with everyone's name written on it. I was like, okay, this is what I have on this person, this person, this person. And Neta was like, I had a few things on her, but they weren't like good facts because like she was just quiet the entire time. So it's hard to create something out of literally nothing.
Right. Which then when Michael John goes out and Kira leads the charge there, we do see in the next cycle, Neta starts piling on a little bit of suspicion onto Kira. And did you feel like at that time that similar to what your feelings were with yourself and Neta, you're like, Neta has no evidence. Well, how is she building something out of nothing here for Kira? How were you feeling throughout that whole cycle?
I honestly am still in shock to this day. I do not understand just the way I was like at the table. None of it makes sense. People are talking about how they have receipts, they say, and it's just like the whole time, if you look back at the conversation, they don't have a single thing on Kira. Like even Neta's putting suspicions on her, and it's just like, yeah, but we haven't looked at her yet. But it's always the bubbly one. And it's just like, that's not a fact. Like you can't vote or like shouldn't vote someone out on a stereotype. Like, yeah, it's usually the bubbly one that's a traitor. So let's vote her out. We're at the end of the game and you're voting someone out on sheer like stereotypes or a character type. And I was just like, I was in pure shock. And Kira and I like did not expect it at all. So I wasn't even mentally prepared to come and save her, which was my entire goal. This entire show was to try to save her or even throw myself under the bus. But obviously that wouldn't have worked. So I was trying so hard to save her, but I was actually partially in shock at that table. I'm like, I did not expect Kira's name to like be mentioned at all.
Oh, I can only imagine if my sibling, I'm sitting there stun locked because my sibling is getting all these accusations and I can't do anything about it. I'm like, I don't got anything I can say to help your situation here. So that would have been tough to see for sure.
And I also can't really use the brother sister. Like I know her, she's my sister. It's like, oh, really? Like, because that just makes her look even more suspicious.
Immediately.
Like, yeah, because then I'm like pretty much telling everyone she's been lying since the beginning about being siblings. So maybe I am a slightly better liar than she thought I was, because I did have to lie about that the whole time.
You kept that secret, man. You kept it completely locked in.
To the very end, not a single person found out ever during the game, you know? So that's something to be proud of.
Were y'all keeping conversations at a minimum and avoiding each other as much as you could, do you think?
Yes, we were, especially at the beginning. We were trying to not talk to each other as much as possible until it became more organic. Like, so it didn't seem like we're avoiding each other on purpose. And but there's sometimes where I overheard her say something about her parents, which are obviously my parents too. And I'm like, okay, so that fact that she used, I can't use that. I can't say that.
Right.
Like, so it was definitely trickier.
I do like, obviously, I think you did a great job with it, but part of me is like, it would have been funny if you had a moment where you're like, actually, let me fact check you on your own parents here, because you're wrong about that one. It would have been so funny, but
Yeah.
then you would have been giving it all away, so that wouldn't have happened. I had a fleeting thought that is gone now, and I completely blanked. But I'm gonna pivot into another question. Nick, we saw you do a couple of front flips in victory during this season. And that sparked a conversation between myself and my co-host Scally. Do you watch other reality TV shows, or this is a fresh experience for you?
I'd say it's a fresh experience. I've watched, I think, about 8 seasons, maybe 9 now with this one of the Traitors, between all franchises. And but as far as reality TV shows, I'm not like super haven't seen that many.
I feel like you would be a good person for the challenge.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I've heard of that one. Kira wants to be on that one too.
Yeah, we talked about that with her as well. I think, listen, a brother-sister duo on the challenge, like, who says no? You know what I mean? Like, that could be a good shout.
That
And I
would-
remembered what I was going to ask you, Nick. So I have talked to Neta, and she had said that it was very much a foregone decision. She was going to murder you. She was like, I had a fleeting second where I thought maybe Tranna to get some sus off myself. But I think ultimately she felt like she couldn't, like, you were going to come after her if you had survived. So I want to ask you, in the event that you make it to the final roundtable, would you have played a vocal role in trying to get Neta out or anybody out? Or do you think you would have played a more quiet game to just get to the end?
It really depends on the way things would go. If I saw the way the last episode turned out and how there was kind of like some alliances and stuff, I definitely think, considering my suspicions, which were like Lauren and Neta, aligned with Kevin's suspicion, which was also Lauren. So I probably would have hopped on that like little alliance, which would have probably flipped things quite a bit. But I think it really depends. I think I would have been a little more vocal because at that point, my sister's gone. You know, like, I have
Right.
nothing to lose. I'm only trying to not die so I could stay till the end with her, help her game. And at this point, it's just like, I didn't want to win. I don't like need the money. Other people deserve it and need it more than me. So it's not even about winning. I definitely think I would have been more vocal because I had nothing to lose at this point. Just like, let's just get Neta out.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were there for the experience. Would you say, now that all of it is said and done, it was a fulfilling experience? You had a good time? You enjoyed your journey on the Traitors?
I definitely have like no regrets on like going on the show. Would I have done anything different? Like, not really. I think like everything that there's just a few things that blindsided me, but it was pretty fulfilling. It's a nice thing to check off the little bucket list, like, you know, being on TV for the first time and stuff.
Well, how was it for family and friends who know both of you, getting to watch both of you on the show? What was the reaction like there?
I think it was pretty interesting to see, like, especially like my parents' reaction and other like family members. For me, like, it's definitely interesting for them to see the different vibes that my sister and I like give. Of course, Kira's a little more fiery than I am and stuff. And I was just trying to not to, like, you know, be a true faithful. So it was interesting to see like the complete opposites like on there. So, but I think it was pretty like true to my character. So I don't think there were many surprises to like my parents, for example.
Was there anything, because obviously you would not have seen a lot of the footage from the conclave because you were in the house yourself.
Yeah.
But was there anything from watching the show with Kira that was surprising to you, or that you were like, oh my God, wow, or you had big reactions to that you didn't know about until you watched the show?
So the conclave was definitely, up until this last episode, which of course I was already like murdered for. the conclave was the only other thing that I wasn't a part of. I didn't even get to see the room or anything. So
Yeah.
it was super interesting to see. And I do know that Kira's very passionate, so I'm not really surprised about anything. But that one episode where she goes after Michael John for the shield was like, woo, that was spicy.
It was like, I didn't see this coming. I was like, this is not the Kira I've known so far, but
Yeah.
it was a complete switch. But she really gave it the passion there. She was like, you gots to go. Like,
Yeah, she was definitely stressed from keeping the secret. She was underslept, maybe like there's so many little factors. So, and like, you know, that was at night late. So I could see why that, why like she flipped out like that, because like if she really put herself in the position where she was able to win and she's like, man, that's $5,000 that we really didn't need to waste. Like, let's just kick out one of the like sins and we're good. Like if anyone, any faithful or the saints of that episode got a shield, doesn't really matter. Kick out one of the sins. You know they don't have a shield. So there was literally no point in doing it for control, especially to that price. So I get like why she was upset, you know?
well, we are running out of time here, Nick. I do thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And I know I caught you right at the end of you watching the episode. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. And thanks for a very fun season of the Traitors here.
Well, thank you for having me. It was tons of fun to partake in the Traitors. And it was nice that I got to the last episode, but thank you for having me.
Of course. All the best, Nick. Take care.
You too.